it stopped me in my tracks, I'll be honest with you.
Like there's more heat between Cody and Rock, and Roman just seems secondary.
Do you think they misplayed the hands a little bit?
It's a big different world in WWE than when we knew about it.
Guys that had issues, whether it was drugs, whether it was pills. Pills were a big thing when I was there.
Mr. Henning, this is Tom Carlucci.
That was the night I got indoctrinated by the Undertaker.
And I was in a Lincoln Continental. Macho Man sat next to me, and Sherry Martel was a trip.
What's good, everybody? Welcome into yet another episode of your new favorite WWE and wrestling story time show we like to call Behind the Turnbuckle, Tommy? Beyond the Turnbuckle? Behind the Turnbuckle.
Behind the Turnbuckle.
Behind the Turnbuckle. That's right. Get it right. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Hit that like button. Share the show with everybody. You guys have really helped us grow so quickly. Now, if you're new to this show, my man, Big T, 32 years inside of the WWE. Your boy, well over a decade inside of the WWE. This show, we simply tell stories. We'll react to stuff that happens on Raw or SmackDown if it's really, really good, but we always tie it back to something that happened during our time there, the time that so many people, Tommy, say was the best time ever in wrestling, the 90s and into the early 2000s. Hello once again, sir.
How are you, sir? How's everything? And we are on the road to Wrestlemania, and things got crazier this week as we saw on SmackDown and Raw.
So that's where I want to start. Depending on when you're watching this episode, we're taping it on the week of March 13th. And we're about 3.5, 4 weeks away, I guess, from WrestleMania. And there's a lot of good, and then there's some bad that we'll get into. But the good, Tommy, because we were there when they were making The Rock. You were inside the building when they were trying to figure out what The Rock was going to look like, all the different Brahma Bulls, this. But what makes a superstar is his entrance, is his theme music. And we know Kevin Dunn, our boss, he's gone. He left several weeks ago. But whoever came up with that new Rock entrance on SmackDown, it stopped me in my tracks. I thought that was next level. Your thoughts?
Coach, it was simply spectacular. The lights went out, the lightning happened. You saw the Brahma Bull, and it highlighted the Brahma Bull with the light blue and the red eyes. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. In the beginning, I thought, is Undertaker coming out? The music hits, and then you see him standing there with that little flash, that shadow kind of on him. It was just incredible what I saw. And Rock, of course, Rock is Rock, as we all know. And
I saw somebody on social media, and they said it right. They said, this is what a superstar looks like. And I love to use the term levels to this game whenever I'm doing a particular show. But there are levels to this game. And whether you're talking about on Instagram where he went out to rodeo, put on the cowboy hat, and did another 10-plus minute promo utilizing social media, once again, to their advantage. But that, Tommy, if you're a fan inside the building and you're a fan watching at home, as much as you want to hate everything about what he stands for in your eyes, you can't help but appreciate that presentation, which is what true entertainment is all about.
He's all about it, Coach. He's Mr. Entertainment. He's the clock here, man. He is just pushing everything the way he wants to go. And no matter what you say about him, the guy is a huge, huge star and a multi-talented entertainment guy in WWE and, as we all know, in show business.
And I encourage people to look at some of his interviews, see his timeline, because everybody seems to know what's going to happen, Tommy. Everybody seems to know, well, this guy's going to do this at WrestleMania Night 1. You got to look at The Rock's schedule, because I was there in 2002, and I remember having a conversation with him. And he took advice, and he's admitted this, Tommy, in many, many interviews, that the agents that he had back then, and try to imagine, he's the biggest star in wrestling, which is just still kind of frowned upon back then, and they wanted to make him the biggest movie star in the world. So they told him, you got to cut it off, meaning your schedule, you're done, you're walking away. That cost him tens of millions of dollars because fans didn't go to his movies. So now if we look at his schedule, he has more control over it, but I still think that we can read something into it. Because I think you saw an interview. He's got a movie coming out, or you're going to start a movie in May, correct?
Correct. It was on the Academy Awards, a pre-show interview they were talking to him about, what's going on, and he ended up saying he's making another movie. They're starting to shoot a movie in May with Emily Blunt, who he did Jungle Cruise with, but it's not Jungle Cruise; it's another movie.
Okay.
So we at least we know in May he will not be around much here at the WWE.
Yeah, the conversation I had with him 20 years ago when he was making, he just made Scorpion King. He got critical acclaim for it, despite the money not really coming in. Was that I told him, go to Raw on Monday night, travel on a private jet, pay the money, get up Tuesday morning, shoot Tuesday afternoon all the way through Sunday, and that way every single wrestling fan would not have felt like he walked out on them. It's different now, but there's still no way that he can go to Raw and SmackDown, or even probably SmackDown. That's a Friday night. He's not
Yep.
going to be able to halt production and
No.
cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars. You don't think so, right?
No, I don't think that would happen, and frankly, WWE would send the jet there. I'm sure he wouldn't have to pay for that jet to fly him to SmackDown every week, but logistically, it just doesn't work. There's budgets, there's shoots, there's everything. So, and he knows that, and I think just in May he'll be going away for a couple of months.
Yeah, so I think that's something that you and I, as we continue to do these episodes every week, really need to keep in mind, as we, like the fans, like to predict, but unlike the fans, we don't read the dirt sheets. We just predict as a fan base, which I think is fine. It's when you
Yep.
read the dirt sheets and then you go, well, this guy said this. Just don't do that.
Nope.
So The Rock comes out, Tommy, has this phenomenal entrance. And if you haven't seen it, I'm sure we'll show pictures of it here on our YouTube page and everywhere else. But then we get to Monday, and we always wonder, because as a big time heel, he sucks up a lot of the oxygen in the room. He really, really does. But that's just who he is. He's always been that way. To me, Roman Reigns has taken a real back seat in this whole scenario. And
Uh,
this whole thing is about Roman Reigns and that title, and Cody Rhodes climbing the mountain to get the title. Do you think they've misplayed the hands a little bit, not giving Roman more of a stand there equal with The Rock?
Uh, my own opinion, coach, I really
Mhm.
do. I mean, it seems like the heat is with Cody and Roman. I mean, Cody and Rock. I mean, if you
Yep.
noticed, I mean, he specifically went into Cody's face, and it just seemed like Roman was just standing there. And, of course, it ended up in the slap and everything else like that. So it seems like there's more heat between Cody and Rock than it is that we were talking about ending the story with Roman. And Roman just seems secondary. That's my own opinion. So
No,
I
no,
could
no,
be
no.
wrong.
I'm glad you said that, because here's what I would have done, Tommy. It would have been a swerve, but I would have moved Cody in front of Roman where he's a little bit closer to him. And Rock could still talk to him, but what if he would have slapped Roman for what Rock said?
I would have
And
loved
now
that.
all of a sudden, that would have been incredible, because
Yep.
that would have shown me and the fans he has his eye on the title, and he's not letting The Rock get inside my head, and he's going after the guy. And then he would have stunned Roman, because Roman wouldn't have been expecting it. And then all of us out here would have been talking about that instead of the quote unquote obvious thing of him slapping The Rock back because of what happened in Las Vegas several weeks ago. I wish they would have done that.
Yeah, I think that would have been a lot better. But hey, everybody knows what they're doing there, and I'm sure Rock is heading away on this creative on this, and I'm sure Roman has an input, and obviously Cody has an input. Seth, not so much, probably. What got me was that Seth gave the answer. He jumped in Rock's face, but if you notice, Cody seemed a little hesitant about him saying that. Did you notice that?
I did. I really did. I feel like, as much momentum as Cody has and coming over the last couple of years from AEW, I don't know, Tommy. I don't want to use the word exposed, because I am a fan. But when you get to this level of promo and this level of star power, and you put that pressure on yourself to really deliver the way The Rock is delivering on the microphone, sometimes you can be out of your depth. And I think he might feel that, and it could be showing in the ring when he gets in there face to face with The Rock. That's kind of what I see. But it's hard to match up Mike for Mike with the greatest Mike man in the world.
No, nobody can, and Cody absolutely cannot go hand in hand with The Rock when it comes to mic skills. So neither can Seth. Although I don't think Seth's, personally, I don't think Seth's mic skills are that great. I mean, he kind of annoys me a little sometimes. I hate to
I
say that. I really don't. He's
no,
a
you're
great
being
worker in the
honest.
ring.
You're being, and
So,
he's lasted a long time. We've got to be honest here. And
yep,
these guys can take it. I've been ripped before, and sometimes it's just not your cup of tea.
right.
And especially when you've been around for over a decade and you've changed your character several times, it's okay. By the way, did you see the picture from the book with him? And people who don't know, he's married to Becky Lynch. Did you see the
Yes.
picture? She has a book coming out. Did you see that? Where they're
Is
standing
that
there
what they
naked?
had? They had the titles around their waist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll
You
give
know what I
credit for
thought that
that.
was? You know what I
What?
thought? I thought they were goofing on Cena from the Academy Awards, but it's not.
Oh, no, it's not, because that was done. This picture was done a long time
Yeah,
ago.
I know that.
Long
I know
time
that.
ago. Yeah.
Yep.
So I thought it was pretty cool. And I always like to think about, when famous couples get together, that first year and a half is just fire. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that picture right there tells me that early on it was fire for them,
Oh, they
which
had a lot of fire. Yeah.
they did. They did. They were two of the biggest stars in the world. She was
Yep.
the biggest star at the time that they started dating. It shocked me a little bit, but God bless them. They now
Yep.
have a little one running around at home, so good for them. The other thing I want to hit on when it comes to Cody Rhodes, Tommy, is the sit-down interview with Michael Cole, and this has Brian G's hands all over it, because this is what we used to do in the early 2000s: was bring a guy out and just sit him down, get inside his head, really do an interview. And I don't know how I felt about that either. You?
It's all about emotion for Cody, and that's where they're going with it. Cutting the promo, and then he almost, starts crying, talking about his mother, talking about his wife. He has only his mother to hand the championship off to. To me, it got a little. I don't know. It was. I know you want to get the emotion of the fans into Cody's world, and you really want to make him the biggest baby face ever, going against The Rock and Roman. But the crying bit was a little too much for me personally. I think some people liked it. I don't know how much other people took it, but you know, I don't know. I had a problem with it. I don't know if you did or not. What did you think?
Well, to me, I'm all about having that syrupy baby face that you need with that really powerful heel. To me, and I don't even know if Cody is capable of doing this. That's what I keep coming back to: is you can only get so much out of people, right?
Yep.
Not everybody's a great actor. Not everybody can do what they do. And I would rather see Cody straight into the camera blow the Rock off.
Yep.
Just ignore him at this point, because what that would do to the Rock, not Dwayne Johnson's ego, but the Rock's ego, would be incredible. And I'd also be like, hey, Rock, I'm getting in your head. I mean, you're out here cutting promos on Instagram for 10, 15, 20 minutes. You're talking about guys that host radio shows instead of focused on the man that's standing right in front of you. That's what I would have said. That's what I would have done.
Absolutely. I would have been pissed off. I'm tired of this, man. This guy came in and he tries to take over and everything. And I would be more on the pissed off side than more of the emotional crying side of it. We get what he's talking about, the story. We
Mm-hmm.
get it. We've heard it how many times? We're gonna hear it till the cows comes home. And you know what? WWE is gonna push that envelope all the way to WrestleMania,
As far as
obviously.
they
So
can. I
yeah.
want to start hearing about the title. I want to start hearing about the title. They're
Yep.
making it about family. They're making it about. I want to hear about the title. Now, speaking of titles, Tommy, because of how much oxygen this storyline is taking up, I bet if you walk down the street, even to a hardcore wrestling fan, and you said to me, "What are going to be 5 other matches at WrestleMania?" They couldn't tell you.
Nope.
There has not been, even when you read recaps, if you don't watch the entire show, whatever, all of these other storylines are getting pushed to the back burner. And we're supposed to have a riveting 2-night WrestleMania. Have they done too much of this and pushing it out on social media, using The Rock on social media, so that the other stars don't really have a big time platform this year? At least that's my opinion.
I agree. All right, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
When's the last time you heard about Bailey and her championship match?
When CM Punk mentioned her on social media like 3 weeks ago.
That's my point. Everything is is the whole Rock, Roman, Cody, Seth. You
Yep.
don't even hear about, now Rhea Ripley came out against Becky. Now you're hearing about the Intercontinental title, but you don't hear you they brought it up Monday night because they had that gauntlet match. And
Mm-hmm.
other than that, you're not hearing anything. Like I can't remember last time I heard about Bailey or about her championship match. So you're absolutely right, Coach. They are putting all their
All
force
in.
on this, and this is their money driver, and they think they're gonna break records and everything. So I agree
Well,
with you,
they
Coach. I
They
agree.
probably are. They probably are, Tommy. I mean, it's and you think about the bonuses that those top four guys are going to get for both nights. I mean, it's going to be well over $1 million easily. Uh,
Oh,
but the reason I bring it up, Tommy, because it always takes me back because I will contend, and I'll probably say it 1,000 times on this show, that from 2000 to 2003, that was the most competitive time in the history of the business. And what I mean by that is we had 15 to 20 dudes 15 to 20 cats that could headline WrestleMania. So they actually competed. They would walk in and sit down and talk storylines and say, I can take it here, 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 and here. And I'm sure they're still doing that. But do you think any of these guys that aren't in that main event are walking into Triple H's office and saying, hey, Hunter, can I get 15 minutes? Here's what I thought about the next 4 weeks or the next 5 weeks. And I need about 12 minutes of TV time to do that. And then I'm going to walk you through it. Do you think anybody has the guts to do that right now? I say no.
I totally agree, and we remember what happened with Undertaker. Said, remember he was in the locker room, and it's not the way it used to be. These guys are happy where they're
Mm-hmm.
content and everything like that. There's no attitude at all. So I don't see that. They're just riding the train right now, Coach. There's nobody going and say, hey, I want to do this. Give me this. Give me 15 minutes on Raw. Let me do this or something on SmackDown. These guys are content right now, so I don't think that's a very good thing. So.
I think they're content, but Tommy, I also think they're a little bit scared. And what I
Yep.
mean by that is normally when The Rock comes back, he comes back for a one off or maybe a few weeks, and he's just focused on his storyline with whoever. This is different. He's on the board of directors now.
That's
He got
right.
a $30 million payday. He's
Yep.
now, going to be in both nights of WrestleMania, and we'll talk in the next couple of weeks of what we think that's going to look like. But when you have The Rock in the building every week, and whether you're starstruck, whether you are scared to talk to him because you know he's in the room with Triple H and that entire writing team all day long,
Yep.
I think you're scared of getting squashed a little bit too, which is fair. The way historically that has always worked to what I like to call B or C stars, because that's what used to happen.
That's what used to happen, Coach. And right, let's face it, it's a big different world in WWE than when we knew about it, right? There's no
Mm-hmm.
longer
No
the
doubt.
chairman there anymore where you can just go to him and he can make a decision. Now you go to Triple H, and who knows? Maybe he has to go to somebody in Endeavor to say, hey, we want to do this, this, and this. Now it's a little different now. So maybe that's why they're a little laid back and they don't want to create any heat at all between themselves and the company, if you know what I mean.
Well, that's a very good point because right now, even though there is competition, that competition isn't getting a lot of good press. They're not getting a lot of pub. And so we were also there when WCW went under, and we'll have an episode on that. We're going to be here for a very, very long time. So we'll tell the stories throughout the weeks and the months and the years. But when you don't have competition that you think you can go to, and you're in this type of a business, that scares you. And wrestlers' mentalities have always been because they come up on the indies, right? It's
Yep.
where's my next paycheck going to come from? So when you get a contract and all of a sudden you're making six figures, you're making really good money, you don't want to lose that. But
Nope.
on the flip side, back when The Rock came up and Triple H and Stone Cold and these guys, Rock had no money when he started, and he was
Nope.
ultra aggressive. He would always go in and he would always pitch storylines because he said, you know what? Hell with that. And his aggressiveness turned him into a multimillionaire. It's not going to happen
Absolutely.
for everybody, but in this
No.
business, I think right now, Tommy, you got to have the guts and belief in what you're doing to walk in the door, especially right now, because you could be the B storyline if it's good enough. But if you don't pitch it, they're not even paying attention to you right now.
That's right.
I guarantee you
You're
that's how it's going, right?
Yeah, you're
Guarantee it.
absolutely right. Let's face it, when Rocky first came up as Rocky Maivia, he got hammered by the fans, right? So
Hammered.
they had to rethink everything, and Rock was a big part of that. And then Rock was the one that came up with himself in the third person, and then that stuff just took off. But when he first came out, I think they thought he was a big bust because he didn't get the love that everybody wanted him to get, and they did WWE did push them down, him down your throat. So, and you can't do that to the fans because they'll just reject that in a minute, and then boom, now what do you do? But Rock reinvented himself, Coach. He reinvented.
1997,
Yep,
1997 Survivor Series. He made his debut.
that's
By
right.
99, when I started, he was a superstar
Yep,
in less than 2 years.
2 years.
Less than 2 years. He was a superstar because he pivoted and they went away from that. To tell you how much is riding on these decisions to be heel or babyface, I don't know if you guys have seen the recent interview with Chris Van Vliet. I've been on his show a couple of times, Tommy, and he just interviewed John Cena. And he asked John Cena how close he was to becoming heel, I believe, in 2012. And if somebody's watching at home, they go, well, what's the big deal, coach? Well, heels normally don't sell merchandise. And there was a point, Tommy, and I don't remember the number. Maybe you can help me with it. That of every dollar that fans were spending in the WWE, it was like 40% was John Cena merchandise. It was a crazy, crazy number.
Mm.
And so if you go heel and the company's standing to lose that, and they were a standalone company at that point, that's a very big business decision to make John Cena, who at that time was the face of the company. And so I don't think a lot of fans understand everything that goes on behind the scenes. It's not just about what happens on TV.
Oh no, it's the whole persona and the merchandising and creating this guy who became who he was, and kids just loved him. So, thinking him going to turn heel, man, that could have really turned him the wrong way, and then
Mm-hmm.
merchandise sales go right down the drain because
You know,
he,
I
he
had to think about my own merchandise, Tommy, because I still get a $78 check every 3 months, and I have it sitting right over there on my table so that I don't forget where I came from. No, I'm
that's
kidding. I
right.
actually do still get a check for my interest
Wow.
theme. Yeah, I do. My interest theme was on one of the CDs, and there's people going, "What's a CD?" Apparently, they still sell because I get $78 every 3 months on
Wow.
from 2004. That's a true story. True story.
Did
Now,
Jim Johnson do that music?
it was I had two, and Yin Yang Twins did my most popular one.
Yeah.
But Jim Johnson did the generic first one. And I got to tell you, when you walk out into an arena, and you've been there a million times, and a superstar or somebody like me gets their first music, and you get that video up on the screen, and
Oh
they
my
call you
God.
out there, and they show you at 3:00 in the afternoon, Tommy, it is one of the coolest things that you could ever imagine. And
Money. That's money,
money,
coach. Then you say, I made it, dude. This kid
yep,
from Kansas made it.
that's how I
That is
felt.
that's good stuff, coach. You can't take that away. I want to go back to what you just said a minute ago about guys being aggressive. And I'm going to talk about just one guy who I think has a lot of potential. And I won't stay on it very long,
Sure.
but I think Austin Theory reminds me a little bit of Cena. I think he has the potential to be that he can carry the WWE in years to come, but he's really not
Okay.
aggressive. He's with Waller. I mean, I don't even know what he's doing for WrestleMania. Do you know? Is he
Well,
doing
I
anything?
don't, but it's funny you bring this up because in that interview, John Cena said that he would love to be a part of WrestleMania 40 in some capacity, but he doesn't have anything to do yet. Maybe,
Aha.
maybe, because I had no idea you were going to talk about him. Maybe they have a promo segment.
I
I
think
don't
that
think
would.
they'd have Cena wrestle a match, although, if you watch him on the Oscars, he's still in great shape, clearly.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You
But
know,
that's a guy who I think has a lot of potential to be a huge star. Do you agree with me on that? Or
to me, he's the next guy. He's the next guy. And people think that he's an overnight success. He's been around for a minute.
yeah.
He's not, he's not brand new. And so he's had chances to kind of figure himself out away from the WWE. So then when he got here, but I saw a recent interview with him where he talked about how they used to shoot down his ideas all the time, and he's trying to figure out. And he gets accused of ripping off, catchphrases and all these different things when he's just trying to make a name for himself. And I haven't seen any of that, but I'm kind of paraphrasing what the interview said, but I
Well,
think he could be, Tommy.
Well, when he came on, they don't do vignettes anymore, so they just bring you on now, and without even know what is his character really. Like, what's Austin Theory's character? We really don't know. He's a young,
Mm-hmm.
smug, good-looking guy who abuses people on the mic and stuff like that. But I still think there's a ton of potential in him. And the other guy I wanted to hit was Damian Priestley because they were always looking for that next Latin star. I know that because I was in international TV for years and they knew
Mm-hmm.
Ray wasn't going to be around forever. So they really never found that next huge Latin star like Rey Mysterio. I think Damon Priestley could be that guy if you change his look a little, get him out of the Judgment Day, because he is money in my eyes. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but I
I do,
really like Damon, and they
but
were
it's
always
got to
looking
come
for
down
that.
on him.
Yep. So
Well,
that's
and
something
you bring up
quickly.
a
I
good
didn't.
point. Oh no, you bring up a good point because I think also the other thing that we can educate people and entertain is that when you lean into a star that's not necessarily from the United States, that could be big time money for the WWE as well because WWE is on in whatever 150 countries and Spanish speaking countries. I believe, Tommy, the second most. Am I right on that?
Yes, you are, Coach.
Yep. So it's
Yep,
the second most. So if you can get a Latin star, a Spanish speaking star, you start doing shows in those, Mexico City or Argentina or Brazil, all these type of stuff, 100%. But it's got to come down to good creative writers, but also those two guys have got to walk in every week. And if I was them, I'd be sitting at this desk all day, every day, just coming up with ideas. Maybe this will work. Maybe this will work. Because the thing is, a lot of fans forget, Tommy. And if you try something and it stinks, you might have the occasional kid in his mom's basement who will bring it up, but most people have lives and they
that's
move
right.
on down the road. And
That's right.
you try it, it sticks, it's fantastic, but they got to walk in with these ideas because these writers are trying to write for 5 hours of TV every single week. And I remember they used to teach us, do you imagine if in Hollywood you had to write for 5 hours of TV every week? It'd be impossible.
That's right.
Impossible. So these guys aren't
Right.
thinking about you.
Nope.
Now, I want to get in. We got two more things. If you're new to Behind the Turnbuckle, we end every episode with story time with either me or Tommy. We got a really funny one this week. But I'm really into the two different shows on A&E, biographies and also the rivals. And we've decided, Tommy, that we're going to do a separate little episode starting next week talking about the rivalry they're going to hit on that week. And then we'll do the old ones a little bit later and we'll do the biographies here because I think it's going to be a perfect segue into your story time. And this week, the episode is on Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, who there's so much good with him to talk about and so much bad, but you and I were there. This was our meat and potatoes time. It was all the 90s and the early 2000s when he attempted to come back to the WWE. So I want to go to you first because you were there when he was the man, the classic ladder match with HBK, as talented as anybody in the ring, maybe ever. But what made him so difficult for the company to get behind him?
Uh, he first of all, to me, Razor Ramon was the coolest superstar ever. His character, the way we all know he. And by the way, the guy could work in the ring. He could cut a promo. He looked great, but he had his own demons, Coach. Let's face it. I mean, he was a big party boy, and that's a no-no in this business, and it really hurt him to really being a superstardom. Some people think that WrestleMania ladder match is the greatest ladder match ever. I was there, I saw it, I thought it was crazy, and he was working with one of the best, probably one of the best in the business, Shawn Michaels. But Razor Ramon, boy, he held his own, and I think he was his own worst enemy. Coach, I
Mm-hmm.
think he could have been a lot bigger than everybody thought he could be. And by the way, he was a bad dude. He was cool. He did everything the right way, but he had the demons, Coach. And that's a big problem in this business, as you know.
And I've had a lot of people over the years talk to me about, guys that had issues, whether it was drugs, whether it was pills, and pills were a big thing when I was there. I've taken some, that's been no secret, and not for a long period of time. But when I first got in the ring, you take a few and it can really snowball on you. But for Scott Hall and to have the talent that he had, this business kind of plays into that, Tommy. And what I mean by that
Yep.
is you don't have to be at the arena. Even back in those days, you didn't have to be at the arena for house shows on Fridays and Saturdays till 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you were a big time partier, you could party till 5 in the morning, sleep, still have time to drive to the next town, still shake off the cobwebs. And when you're as talented as he was, you could still go out there and have a 5-star match standing on your head.
Yep.
And so that's how he was able to navigate, become one of the highest paid when he went to WCW. And these are all reported figures. I never sat Eric Bischoff down and talked to him about it. But Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash were the highest paid guys there.
Oh, yeah.
And so you're talking about $5 to $10 million a year. And back then, they didn't have to do house shows, which is why they didn't make as much money, the company. But you're making that much money, Tommy, and you have a party habit. That's a recipe for disaster, which is ultimately what happened.
And he rode right into that, Coach. The NWO was the coolest thing out. That was something new that WWE never even thought about it when it came out, to be like real characters, not these guys like we had the hockey player and the plumber and all this other stuff. We got the NWO. They had their own hand signal. The NFL was doing it. The NBA was doing it. That's when you capture people around the world, in the entertainment world and the sports world, the NWO. And they were on top of the world. And that is a recipe for disaster, because now you think you're on top of the world. You could do anything you want. Nobody's going to say anything. I'm sure Bischoff didn't have a hard leash on these guys. I think he let them, as you know, he let them do what they wanted, because that was probably what happened with the NWO, is all these guys came in who wanted to do this one, and it ended up being a big flop at the end. But during that high time, big money was made by those guys, and their merchandise was cool, Coach. It was really cool.
And that's the thing, Tommy, is they're one of the few people, and we've mentioned Cena or Rock or these guys that sell big time money, and not only big time for the companies they worked for, ladies and gentlemen, but a lot of it went into their pocket because everybody has a percentage deal. So if you're the NWO, Tommy, and you're selling those T-shirts, I still see them to this day. Yep. And we're talking, this is 30 years down the road, the black and the white and some of the red. And Kevin Nash is, and we'll talk about him on another day, but my God, one of the nicest human beings. And such a shock to me when I met him, because he was such a good actor. And we've seen him in other movies, that he was in with Adam Sandler and all that kind of stuff. But Scott Hall could have been Kevin Nash. He could have been in movies. He could have been in commercials. He was that talented. But then what was sad was over the last 20 years, you see documentaries on him, and he would show up to indie shows, spaced out of his mind.
The one they showed that I watched it Sunday, was in Falls, Massachusetts. The guy couldn't even walk in the ring. Why would the promoter bring him out? Because they're dogs. That's why, Coach. They don't care about you. They want their money.
A lot of the indies are that way.
He didn't even know what day it was. It was unbelievable.
This is a true story, Tommy.
Yep.
True story about Scott Hall. Is 9/11 was obviously September 11th, 2001. The Super Bowl was pushed back a week that season. And because of the move of the schedule, we ended up being in Las Vegas instead of whatever the week was before. And so we partied that night. We stayed at the Embassy Suites across from the Hard Rock Hotel. And that was the night I got indoctrinated by The Undertaker. And we'll talk about how he did things, which he was the godfather. I've never been so sick in my life the next day. But the next day, I rode with Todd Grisham to Los Angeles after the show because SmackDown was in Los Angeles. I was still sick on the drive, down I-15 from Vegas to L.A., and God bless Grish, because he got me there. I hadn't eaten anything. We walk into the hotel, and the next night was supposed to be when the NWO makes their big triumphant return? Well, because those guys are idiots. They're sitting in the lobby of the hotel talking with the Big Show. Then they moved into the restaurant. We always stayed at the LAX Marriott. They had a champs. Remember the Champions Bar they would have there, Tommy?
Yep.
That we'd go all the time. And it was such a situation where I'm starstruck. I am trying to talk to the guys. I'd had issues with Big Show. I was, it's Super Bowl Sunday. And the next morning, I'm getting up to go work out, and he's wandering around the hotel, Scott Hall, wandering around the hotel, and was completely out of it.
Wow.
And was talking to him. I was like, man, this is not going to last very long. It's really not.
Wow.
And it didn't. I think he was back for 2 or 3 weeks, maybe.
That was it.
Yeah. And it was sad because it could have been such a good final run for him.
Yep.
And everything was very, very temperamental at the time. So,
yep. You know what I loved about Razor? What I loved about Razor? When he went in the Hall of Fame, right? He's in the Hall of Fame. He does his speech, and it's the best quote I've heard ever on ending. When you're finished with your speech and everything, hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do. Throw the toothpick. Is there anything better or cooler than that?
That
you
was
tell
the
me,
coolest.
Folks. Huh? And speaking of cool, I worked with one of the cool guys. Is it story time yet or not?
It is time. It is time. It is time for story time with Tommy C. Great segue, Tommy. Great segue. Now, one of the greats, and unfortunately he is no longer with us as well, but you talk about promos and you talk about just absolute charisma.
Oh my
We're talking
God.
about Mr. Perfect. Talk to me what you were around and what Mr. Perfect did.
Mr. Perfect was one of the cool guys too. My wife loved him. She had a crush on Mr. Perfect that was unbelievable. And he was really, I got assigned. Bruce Pritchard was the producer. I got assigned for those vignettes back in the day. When you introduce a superstar, you do vignettes so you know what his character was. And he was the character of Mr. Perfect. So everything he did was perfect. So we had these vignettes. I was the driver. I go to the hotel to pick up Mr. P, and I think there was a rib going on here. And you guys know what a rib is that when they want to fool you with doing something and saying, oh, I can do this, or you can, why am I here? So I call him up and I say, Mr. Henning, this is Tom Carlucci. I'm here to take you to the studio to bring Bruce Pritchard, and then we could start our day. And he's going, who is this? I don't even know who you are. He goes, Carlucci, what are you, in the mafia or what? What's going on here? I'm like, and he starts laughing. He goes, oh, I'll be right down. Comes down in 5 minutes, shakes my hand. Couldn't be a nicer guy. He was incredible. So it's me, him, and Bruce. We do bowling first because the studio on Hamilton Avenue, there used to be a bowling alley across the street. So we go to the bowling alley, and there was it was pretty much empty because that's the way kind of like Bruce wanted, but they had a couple lanes open. People were bowling. And he said, man, I'm going to ace this in 2 minutes. Don't worry about it, guys. Well, he started out, and it wasn't very pretty, Coach, if you know what I mean. He threw a couple of gutter balls. It took us over 5 hours to do that shoot.
5 hours?
So what they did was when he ended up hitting his strike and a couple of strikes in a row, they made him do the turnaround. He did that. And then in post, we kept just showing the same strike over and over again. And we were done. He goes, damn, that was a lot harder than I thought, he said. I know bowlers. I mean, you don't have to be in great shape to be a bowler, but look at me. And he just started laughing. He goes, that was hard, he said. So It was great. And we did them in a couple of days because we couldn't do them all one day because we didn't know how long it was going to be. So the second day, we do the swimming. We go to the Stanford Y, and he's there. And the genius was there. And I don't know why he was there. But the biggest problem of the day for that was the Genius kept flubbing his lines, and Bruce was flipping out, dude. It was incredible. Like Mr. P standing there, he's got his outfit on, he's ready to do this big dive and to do a flip in the air. And he ended up doing a belly flop in the beginning, and he was hurting for like 20 minutes. And he's going, damn, I don't know, Bruce, I don't know if I can do this. Lenny Poffo's there, the Genius. He couldn't get his lines right. We were there over 4 hours, coach.
Stop it.
I'm not kidding you,
Stop it.
dude. 4 hours to do 2 dives. And I think they just kept repeating them, obviously in post. But the last time, the one I did basketball with, that's where he was the best at. He was a pretty good athlete. If you notice, he was in pretty good shape. He in high school, and he did football, he did all that stuff besides being a wrestler and everything like that. So, he's going around, and there were some Trinity Catholic high school kids around the basketball team. And he's going, man, come on, I'll challenge you guys like this. And he did pretty well. So he ran around the basket, he did the corner, did the middle, but the hardest one was doing half court. And then one of the kids showed him how to do it. Like, take it, go like this, shoot it. That took about an hour to do, coach.
Wow.
An hour just to do a half shot. And he ended up making it, and he did it. And he took us out to dinner afterwards. And he goes, hey, Carlucci, let me ask you a question. He goes, I've never been around Italian because I'm from Minneapolis. He goes, are all you guys in the mafia? And I'm like, what? He goes, come on, your family got to do something. They must break noses or do something like that. But he was the best. And through the years, I got to know him so well because he ended up doing commentary here. And I've seen him at pay-per-views. And every time, if it was a summertime or a SummerSlam, or he took us to a baseball game, and he would pick up the tab on everything. One of the greatest guys you ever want to meet. And it's so sorry that he went at such a young age. Another huge superstar in the WWE, Mr. Kurt Hennig. Rest in peace.
Gone way too soon. I never met anybody that really knew him, that had anything bad to say about him whatsoever.
Never. Regular guy.
And he loved the wrestling business. There's some people that love to travel and love to perform. During that time that you just described, even though it was lots of hours, didn't he just love being him?
Loved being it. He loved what his character was going to be. He loved everything about it. He knew he was going to excel at it, and he did. He was just such a great character. He embraced it. Like, he embraced that whole character, and you could see that when he came into the ring, with the towel and spitting the gum out and everything. And by the way, the guy can work in the ring. He was one of the best workers we ever had, and a super nice guy. Never had an attitude about anything. Always ribbing, wanting to have fun. I just him and Bruce were really tight too. Him and Bruce Pritchard, they were really tight.
One of the very best, and there are.
And I was a part of it. You're talking about.
It's so cool that you were there. So cool that you were there.
You're talking about you and your music, and that was one of my first assignments. And I was just a driver. That's it. I mean, I wasn't even taking time code because they had another PA there, so I was just the driver because I lived. And the reason why that was, Coach, because I lived in Stanford, I knew all these places where they were going, so to make it easier. So, but it was an experience I will never ever forget.
Incredible, Tommy. Thank you for sharing that. That was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Behind the Turnbuckle. Do not forget, more stories like that every single week. Also, we're going to be doing a little separate episode starting next week on the different rivalries that A&E Network are doing as well. They got HBK and Undertaker coming up. So many different ones that we need to talk about because we were there. All right, Tommy, Coach, any final thought? Yes.
Yes, I got one thing for you. I'm going to tease the fans with a story that I had. The very first SummerSlam, which was in the Meadowlands, New Jersey Continental, my job was to take Macho Man Randy Savage, Earl Hebner, and Sherry Martel, and Jesse the Body Ventura to the arena. And that was some experience. And I will let the fans know about that story in the weeks to come.
Wow. I want to hear that next week.
Jesse, Earl, Sherry Martel, and the Macho Man. I was in a Lincoln Continental. Macho Man sat next to me. I had them in the back, and Sherry Martel was a trip.
We'll have that.
That's what
story
story
for
time's
you
all about.
coming up.
That's what you get here on Behind the Turnbuckle, folks.
That's exactly right. That'll do it for us. For producer man behind the scenes, for my man Big Tommy C, I am the coach. Subscribe to this channel. Like the video. Share. We have so much content right here for you to soak up if you just like the old stories and you just like WWE wrestling as a whole. That'll do it for us. We'll see you next time on Behind the Turnbuckle.